In the period from 1996 to 2012, Wilton was the third highest in the state in percent increase in per capita spending. Currently, Wilton is in the fourth highest in spending per capita in the state of Connecticut. Given the expected difficult financial situation we are facing due to debt service increases and potential teacher pension obligations we are facing, what will you do to try to bring spending under control?
So, as I mentioned before, and I'm sure you'll hear it from me again, I spent 8 years on the Board of Finance. And during that time, I obviously have an intimate understanding of the line items of both the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education, which obviously brings a unique perspective, as I mentioned earlier. That notwithstanding, that gave me an understanding into where we had opportunities for savings, whether they be shared services or they be changes in the way we do business. I'm an entrepreneur. I have a business here in town. I moved my business from Manhattan to Wilton Center. I have a cybersecurity business. We're right above Pinocchio's Pizza. I am intimately familiar with the financial strife that the state is in, that the town is in, and my perspective into the budget allows me to understand. I'll give you an example. So on the Board of Finance, every year, and our former chairman is over there, he'll attest to this, I had looked at comparable towns and how they were spending money. I'll use the police force as an example. I love the police, but a comparable town had 5 less police officers. And we never had a real good answer as to why they were able to deliver those services at that price. I'm not saying we should cut police. I'm simply saying we're not looking deep enough into how we can deliver services more effectively, efficiently, and at a better price point.
Thank you. Ms. McFadden.
Thank you. This is a great question. The community needs to do 2 things. They need to do economic development to grow the grand list, but this question focuses on cutting. And I think that the town has done some things. The combining of services between the town and the school, there was a lot of parallels. The payrolls have come together. The finance director and the CFO are now a shared position. There's also a sharing of IT services. We need to continue this trend that we've already started. I think there's some more opportunities in IT and finance, and purchasing is an excellent example of an area where we need to be working together. The other thing is we have actually 2 fire departments that serve us. We have Georgetown and we have the Wilton Fire Department. Are there opportunities there? Are there opportunities for regionalization? Regionalization is a whole other issue where we could look at the surrounding communities. And so I think that we can still work together and think creatively, but the thing that I want to comment on is we are quite fortunate in the town of Wilton to have the caliber and quality of employees in the community that we do that work for us. They are dedicated, professional, and we just couldn't do this without them. And so I'm thankful for the high productivity level of our town employees.
Thank you so much. Mr. Cole.
You know, as I mentioned a little bit in my opening, you know, our town is going to be facing severe financial decisions, you know, in the coming months and years, and balancing a budget, you know, at its simplest level is easy because, you know, everyone has a checkbook, everyone has a job, you have a certain amount of money coming in, you have certain expenses. And if the golden rule obviously is don't spend more than you make. So I think, you know, what we need to do is we need, you know, in our budgeting process, you know, the board, you know, has done this in the past. We need to continue looking at every line item to see where there may be, you know, from year to year, you know, the ability to reduce in some areas. And, you know, Deb touched on it a little bit. You know, one of the things to investigate obviously is shared services. But we have to be careful that, you know, we don't lock ourselves into a situation where, you know, a perfect example is emergency services. You don't want to share emergency services with other towns and be in a position where they cut their budget and you don't have the resources that you need. So I think there's multiple things to do. You know, it's looking into sharing services, consolidating services. She touched on a little bit about purchasing. The town should be, purchasing supplies in bulk. It shouldn't be separated between the Board of Selectmen, Board of Ed, Parks and Rec. Everything should be, done as one.
Thank
so
you
you
very
get the
much.
best discount possible.
Ms. Bufano, would you care to carry on?
Yes, I would. Fiscal pressure is just going to continue to come down from the state, but I don't think that cutting is, the only way that we can achieve savings. Grand list growth, as has been mentioned, is key. I'm also in favor of shared services, but I also think revenue generation is an area we need to look at. Some of the things that have been done already by the board are stadium advertising, so that we can create a fund that will allow us to repair or replace fields without really having to go back to the town. So I think that was one of our accomplishments. Also, the Board of Selectmen is trending under budget for this year, and I can tell you that we take it very seriously to look at every line and every opportunity. Another area I'm extremely interested in is vacancy review. I think every position is and will be looked at for need and an opportunity to share those services. So that's extremely important. 30 seconds, okay, good. And purchasing services, Josh touched on that. That's near and dear to my heart. That's what I do in my job, and we've begun the process of reviewing the policies and procedures, appeal processes in place, as well as looking for opportunities to consolidate leases and other contracts.
All right, we have time for rebuttal, if any of you would care to use it. Mr. Alper?
How much time for rebuttal?
You have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
One of the candidates touched on economic development as an opportunity. The reality is that economic development will not save the day, because whether the stores are empty or full, the owner of the building pays the tax, and that's where we get our revenue from. So you can fill up every single building with retail establishments or office places. It won't matter. The taxes aren't going to change. If you want to change the tax base, you have to look at zoning.
Thank you. Does anyone else care to rebut?
Yes, Mr. Cole?
Al touched on it a little bit. There actually are ways to grow the grand list. He's right that, existing businesses that are empty pay taxes. But you have to investigate opportunities to further develop, repurpose those properties that they could be used for a different use, which might generate more revenue. That's all I wanted to add.
Anyone else?
I would add that there are some town properties that we can look at that might be able to be repurposed at this time for grand list growth.